Here is my first ever job, selling hot dogs for the company Sausage Shack, owned by two men who were both named Michael Whitaker, but were in no way related to one another. That's me there. Since then, I've worked in a warehouse, a mental hospital, sorted admin at a sperm bank, I've been a solar panel engineer, a restaurant critic, a garden furniture catalogue writer, but these all pale in comparison to some of the terrible employment positions held by those on Reddit. Very quickly first though, do remember I have a Discord, link is in the description, which among other things is a great place to share any pieces of artwork you've done, such as this, but also now has its own Matt Rose Minecraft server. Do check it out. Anyway, zookeeping intern. An aardvark knocked me over and tried to mate with me. I sprinkled mud onto potatoes that had already been washed so that they would look freshly dug when they hit the supermarket. Sears, it's like being on a burning boat and the captain is telling you to sell dishwashers. In high school, I spent 2 years labelling candle tins on the second floor of a non-air conditioned warehouse where we had mandatory popsicle breaks. Iraq 2003. After the initial invasion, but before long-term FOBs were established, I had the job of burning shit from the makeshift porta potties in 55-gallon drums. I was a furnace helper in steel factory. I used to catch fire 2 or 3 times a day. My first job at 14 was working as a janitor in an old age home for retired nuns. One sister was especially senile and used to scream in my face that I was the devil when I came to clean her room. Construction. I'm bad at it, told them I was bad at it, and they still hired me. Then they fired me 2 months later saying I was bad at it. You know those drawstrings in your athletic shorts? A machine doesn't thread those into the waistband. I did. Fuck that shit. Selling auto parts. The owner was very upset on 9/11 because all the shops were paying attention to the TV and not calling for parts. He looked at the telephone and said quietly, "Come on, phones." I harvested deer heads so they could be checked for chronic wasting disease. 12-hour shifts on a production line, picking out the burned chips from the good ones. Cold calling, selling knives. I worked in a factory cleaning machines that manufactured the cleaning utensils I was using to clean the machines. During the last summer, I worked in a pig slaughterhouse for 2 months. Every week I had a different thing to do, but the worst I did was the anus drilling. Edit. This is exactly what I was doing. I once asked a guy what he did for work and he told me he drove a granny stripper. I assumed this was slang for some road building or agricultural machinery, but nope, he was the driver for a 70-year-old stripper, washing the breakfast dishes at McDonald's. I don't know who the fuck ordered the chunky gravy. I didn't even know there was a menu option that had fucking chunky gravy. When I was 15 and at my first job at McDonald's, a manager accidentally locked me in the walk-in freezer in the basement and went back upstairs. I lasted 45 minutes at a Popeyes. Cold Stone was pretty bad. You had to perform a little dance every time someone tipped you, which was enforced via the manager reviewing video cameras. This week I got told to clean my desk because the last person to use it has scabies. I've answered this before, but working in a soft play centre. One day it was hotter than hell and I was hungover. The smell of rubber and feet was already making me heave. Then some little shit was sick in the ball pool. Worked at a call centre in the 2012 election. Basically my job was to call people and try and get them to vote for Obama during dinner time. In Kansas. Being a whale feces collector was not a high point of my life. I used to work for the US National Institute of Standards and Technology, Weights and Measures Division. I was in charge of making sure all the rulers were exactly 12 inches long. In one summer, I sorted, packaged and inspected 27,000 dog sweaters. Michael's Arts and Crafts, glitter everywhere. It's been almost 4 years since I quit. I still find glitter in my car, in the little corners of drawers, in the little crevices in furniture. It will never end. I worked in an oil factory with ex-cons who constantly fought, and one time this crazy dude was sniffing a line of cocaine and then looked at me with this bewildered look on his face and threw a radio at my head. Pumping concrete. The mix would harden on your shirt and cut up your nips. I was an onion boy at a fried seafood restaurant. The duty of the onion boy was to cut 50-pound bags of onions all day for the onion rings. I literally cried all day. Making and packaging bird food in the owner's garage. They had 17 parrots. When I left for the day and turned the lights out, the birds all started whispering. I quit after a few months. What did they whisper about? I don't even want to know, but whenever the cockatoo would start shrieking, the two macaws would say, "Stop, Willow, stop!" One summer I cleaned the dolls that people practice CPR on. I was a dancing coyote in a steakhouse. Telemarketing for a dairy company, having to ask people questions like, rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how creamy our whipped cream was in their mouths, and if they they had any additional uses for whipped cream. I was 17 years old, almost every single person hung up on me. I worked in an office where we weren't allowed to wear coloured clothes, just black or white. A girl was told off for wearing a grey cardigan. KFC fry cook. Shit pay, shit hours, shitty managers. You would also come home with chicken guts stuck to the soles of your shoes. I thought I was the only one that has haunted shoes. I trimmed the grass around graves with a string trimmer for 40 hours a week. By the time I got through the cemetery, the grass had regrown at the beginning. Bottling vaginal lubricant. I worked with a pet store as an animal handler for children's birthday parties. Imagine being surrounded by dozens of squealing 5-year-olds while trying to hang on to a terrified ferret. Personal care assistant in an aged care facility which involved washing old ball sacks. I worked for a shitty warehouse-style chain store. One Saturday, the building caught on fire and we had to keep working serving customers. Sorting and organising raw, slimy chicken fillets on that production line slide thingy. Thousands of fillets a day, 9 to 10 hours standing and seeing the same thing over and over again. The smell was horrible and everything was covered in this semen-like slime. Also, they gave us chicken for dinner. I got a job at a wood mill doing bitch work when I was 19. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m, half hour for lunch, $7.50 an hour, gluing boards together, planing them and binding them, with a guy named Mike who used to put staples in his arm just to show how tough he was. Making pizza boxes in the pizza shop and all the drunk people would come in and sneer and laugh at me and call me the box maker and they'd all point at me and call me dumb. I once watched pornography virtually all day for 4 months, screening for violations of the Motion Picture Act. We were required to visit a psychologist every 2 weeks as a precaution against post-traumatic stress disorder. I had a job at a hypodermic needle manufacturing plant for 2 days. Repo Man, Camden, New Jersey, when it was the murder capital of the US. Middle school substitute teacher, because middle school substitute teacher. I once worked for a candle factory. Everyone was on meth. One summer I worked at a seafood distribution plant, hauling all of the gut bins to the dump. Telemarketing. I had grey hair at 19 years old. Working for a racist orthodontist. I used to write erotica for a living. The commission pieces were by far the weirdest job I've ever had. I was hired to write a piece about a guy who got straight up fucked by a car he was fixing up. Not him fucking the car fucking him. The car was female, but also had a big metal dick. Obviously. Worked in a chain family portrait studio for 9 months. In that time I was peed on twice, vomited on 3 times, and had my life threatened countless times by angry parents that couldn't control their kids. I quit after they held a contest for cutest pets and someone brought in their pet goat which proceeded to shit all over the studio. Cold calling people on the other side of the country to try to sell tickets to a magic show. Door-to-door meat salesman, commission only. I lasted 3 days until a guy pulled a gun on me and told me to get off his property. Janitor at a college bar. Everyone's bodily wastes were in the wrong place all the time. I worked on a fish farm one summer. Part of the job was to collect sperm from the salmon for analysis and breeding. You basically had to give them a hand job to make them orgasm into a glass beaker. I don't talk about it much. And finally, a friend of mine got a job through a temp agency once. His job was to go into a big warehouse full of toilets and smash them with a sledgehammer. Worst job ever. That sounds like the most fun thing I could ever imagine. If anyone in recruitment is watching this and sees this job come up, you let me, Matt Rose, know first. I am fantastic at smashing things, and of course my CV is available upon request. Thanks!